Follow along with the transcripts at lookingforcows.com. Looking for Cows Audio presents Whispers Bay by MP Temple. Episode 1, Not a Magic Tea Shop. Half-inflated dodgeballs to the face hurt a lot more than Luni expected. Teachers scrambled out of the gym stage door towards the two fighting teenagers outside. Balls kept flying. The other high school theater students surrounded them, stunned at the physicality of the fight. The two fought like wild beasts, fighting over a lost camper's peanut butter jar. Taylor picked up one of the dozen balls the kids tossed to her and threw it as hard as she could at Luni's face. Luni stepped back and felt her busted lip with her tongue, tasting blood and peppermint lip balm. "You're a psychopath, Taylor." "Oh, I'm the psychopath," Taylor screamed. Her long black hair covered her eyes. She gritted her teeth in anger, staring at Luni. "How could you?" "It was an accident. I didn't give you the wrong monologue on purpose," Luni shouted, watching Mr. Bankers and Mrs. Sanders getting closer to pulling them apart. "You did this on purpose. That's why no one likes you, you loony freak. You bottom-of-the-bag piece of candy corn. You're gonna end up with some loser who doesn't give a crap about you. I trusted you. I read that entire monologue you gave in front of everyone. I'll show you a dead shark, your purple rose of Cairo." Before Taylor could throw one last frustrated ball, the teachers arrived and tried to separate the girls, but Taylor fought on. Mrs. Sanders struggled to keep her back. "I wanted that part. You're jealous because I picked the play instead of you," Taylor said. "Yes," Luni found herself saying aloud instead of in her head. Luni watched as Mr. Binkers let go of her and ignored Mrs. Sanders in escorting Taylor away. Tears filled her eyes. "I wanted you to fail so you would have to hang out with me," Luni whispered. "I better never see you again," Taylor screamed. Luni had hopes of going back to the coastal city Taylor talked about non-stop. She had shown her snapshots she had taken of the sun over the beach, a massive tree in the middle of a park, and of an owl walking down the north part of Highway 101. When Luni and Taylor road tripped there, she found herself in love. Of what or where that love was placed, she wasn't sure of. She didn't want to think about it. Only the thought of being close to Taylor had mattered. There was no hope of that now. Little by little, the realization of the consequences of her actions crept in. The harder her fist clenched, the more it hurt. She had ruined everything. In the 5 years since that moment, Luni remembered those words. The feeling of worthlessness lingered, and she heard Taylor's voice in her head night after night. Her dreams of visiting the coastal city of Whisper Bay day by day slowly began to fade. She often thought of Taylor, standing by the tree in the park, and the thought every time would drag her back into the endless pit of regretting every decision one has ever made. "Don't panic," Luni said to herself 5 years later, as if she expected to actually take her own advice in her state of panic. She dialed his number and called for the 27th time in the past 2 hours. Where was Kevin? Though Kevin was flaky and usually missing cabs and flights, birthday parties, and even his own, or any event where he could meet her friends, Luni knew he would always call with some half-believable, vague excuse. But this time felt different. And out of all the places for him to start doing his typical thing of sucking, he had to pick the day before they planned to elope. The hotel attendant didn't know the front desk had a phone, much less how to dial out of it. This seemed unreasonable to Luni, who was not in the mood to watch an employee cluelessly mess around with a 35-year-old phone. Luni, now in her mid-20s, stood in an open-shouldered pink top with a black leather skirt and black sneakers with pink trim. Rainwater dripped from her shoulder-length black hair onto her overstuffed travel bag, still with New Mexico tags attached. Kevin had planned to fly in and meet her there, but after 4 hours and countless calls, he was still missing. There had been weekends where he had returned home after hanging out with friends, but this was new. Finally, the attendant pulled a vegetable out of a drawer. Luni stared, confused. The attendant tapped on the phone, whispered several words, and handed her the phone. After fumbling a bit with the confusing rotary phone, she entered her boyfriend's number. "It's not so easy, is it?" the attendant asked, pulling at the collar of their too tight uniform that seen the inside of the industrial dryer too many times. "But you have the honeymoon suite reserved, and I can't let you in until we have the credit card used." "Yeah, I get it," Luni snapped. The woman waited impatiently while listening to the ringing. Something must have happened. Luni's stomach turned at the sound of "inbox full." She shook her head at the attendant, whose name was Lizzie if the tag she wore was to be believed. "Maybe you can go ask people downtown if they've seen him," said Lizzie. "Sometimes people get lost trying to find us. There's a lot of hotels here." "He told me not to leave the hotel," Luni said as she chewed on her left fingernails. "He must know where the building is. If I leave, he may not find me, and if he doesn't find me, he is going to think I wouldn't wait for him, and that is the furthest from the truth. Lizzie, look, my boyfriend is famous to some people. If you let me in, his people might... I have nowhere to go, and I can't afford to get my own room. Kevin keeps all my money for me, and I can't lose him too." "I'm sure he's famous," said the attendant, not believing her story in the least bit, or perhaps being used to people name-dropping at popular tourist destinations. "But I can't," Lizzie continued. "I have somewhere I have to be. I have to make up for something. He told me if he gets here and I'm not in that room, he's going to dump me. Please, you can't do this to me. He is my one and only. Please don't do this. I can't afford to stay in this city, not even a night. Or this entire coast. Tap beer is more expensive than bottles here. I can't afford this kind of life." Lizzie shrugged. "The next girl's on in 10 minutes. You can ask her or go find a normal in town and see if they've seen him." Lizzie went around to the other side of the L-shaped desk into the room to the right, which was supposed to have coffee for the guests, but it only had Taco Shack and salt packets out. Luni found herself outside, standing frustrated with her luggage in the rain under the hotel awning. She spit out part of a nail she was chewing on before looking back towards the main street of the city. Distant light bulbs flashed from a towering theater sign. "Why is this happening to me?" she thought. She had $40 in her pocket that Celeste had given her, knowing that she had not a dime to her name. Luni argued that she needed to marry Kevin. She was nothing without him, helpless, and the dozens of negatives about their relationship was nothing to worry about. Just because it felt like it was all lows all the time wasn't a good enough reason to end a relationship. Celeste said that she simply could not trust any man named Kevin and offered the money, despite Luni's protest. For 30 minutes she waited there, outside the hotel, until her car splashed a wave of puddle water from the street onto her face. Breaking into deep sobs, she made herself small and sat on the sidewalk with her hands over her head. "This is all my fault," she said. "Always is. I always mess something up. I cooked the wrong egg. Only then did she decide to take the attendant's advice. And even though she risked angering Kevin's oddly neurotic arrangement plans with her, she did so knowing she had no options. She walked towards the bar, hoping to find whatever the attendant meant by normal. The crosswalk sign barked at her forcefully. "Wait!" Mist of coastal winds blew by, carrying the faint scent of salt and seaweed. She saw a sign posted on a building that read, "Not a magic tea shop." The place seemed odd, tucked in between an antique shop and a retro pizza parlor with a wall of singing fish heads in the back. Bright yellow flowers perked out of planter boxes on both sides of the front glass door. Melodic piano music played from inside. Still waiting on the crosswalk, she leaned over and peeked inside to see, having the issue of mentally wrapping her mind around the idea of an actual tea shop, complete with advertisements of cucumber sandwiches plastered all over the place. The crosswalk still had not changed, so Luni stepped closer to the shop. Just as she did, someone put up a sign. Written in official-looking letters read, "Closed due to violations of town code." Luni blinked a few times, trying to figure out how a tea shop could get so dirty it would have to be closed. Were they raising and racing cockroaches? The crosswalk belted again. "Cross!" And she walked into the pouring rain, getting halfway across before the light signaled for the traffic to go. She dodged to pick up, making it to the curb barely in time. She turned back towards the shop. Trying not to focus on how weird the coastal city was, her mind returned to the present situation. She was stuck with no money, no fiancé, and nowhere to go in a state where a studio apartment goes for $1,000 at least. She rationalized. Perhaps Kevin's flight had been delayed. Maybe she was freaking out for no reason. And the dream of being happily married by her favorite tree in the Whisper Bay Park could still happen. They were so close to finally making their wedding a reality after so many months of uncertainty in their relationship. He had sworn that he was going to try harder and make everything okay. But where was he? Something else troubled her. When Kevin had suggested Whispers Bay as a possible wedding location, she jumped at the chance, not thinking Taylor might still live there. Possibly with dodgeballs still. With this in her mind, she walked into what she thought was the bar. She took a seat on a stool with one leg shorter than the other. It seemed to make a soft wee and woo every time it rocked back and forth from Luni's nervous habit. Before she could respond to this ridiculous thing happening before her, a woman with long blonde hair and a white tank top who barely looked old enough to be around alcohol walked over and politely asked what she was having. Luni put her feet on her suitcase so that the chair would stop making noises. "Anything in a lager," Luni said. "Have you seen a man about a foot taller than I am, spiky side part, wearing a dress shirt and slacks?" The girl raised her eyes at the question. "Did I forget to turn off the charm?" she mumbled. "That's how I got this violation. I mean, do you know where you are?" Luni didn't know how to reply. She looked around, realizing she had not walked across the street as she had thought, but instead had wandered into the tea shop. The shop had a lot of antiques displayed on the shelves above, ranging from baseball mitts to ashtrays shaped like devils, to a clear barrel that looked like it had hardened food inside. Some items creepily seemed to be statues carved out of bits and pieces of bones and leather. Unfamiliar scents lofted in the air, and not of tea. It smelt of excitement and mystery. The place looked disgusting, however. "Oh, I am so sorry. I thought I was going somewhere else," Luni said. "That's what everyone says who ends up on the coast," said the blonde, breaking one of the bone structures and expelling yellow dust all over the room. "I am closed. If you want some tea, I can get you some if you don't tell anyone I'm serving you. I'm so screwed on rent if I don't sell something fast. Maybe something to mellow you out? We have chamomile, green tea, Thunderbrew." Wait. No, not Thunderbrew. That is not for sale." The woman removed the jar marked Skullflower Tea from the glass display. Something about this piqued Luni's interest, but she did not ask about it. "My fiancé isn't here. We're supposed to get married, but he's not here and he's not answering my calls and I need help. And her voice trembled as she held back tears. The girl played with about 5 or 6 different handcrafted arm bracelets on her wrist before saying, "Oh, he told you to fly here to your dream location and now is not answering his phone, is that right?" "Yes, I tried using the hotel's phone," Luni said. "It wouldn't go through." Something from inside a cabinet vibrated and rattled. A voice spoke from within. "Delivery required. All employees of Future Treats are now required to make mandatory deliveries." "Oh, if you can't use that phone," she said, removing a white shaking box and placing it in the back of the shop. She shouted to her customer, "Hold on, I can help you, just don't tell anyone. Your man randomly says, 'Let's get married. I'm going to send you on a plane to that one place you've always wanted to go to,'" she said, rolling her eyes. She returned with a beat-up cardboard box. After placing it on the bar, she lifted it up and invited Luni to take a look inside. Luni did. The creature in the box mooed. Luni leaned forward, glaring in astonishment. Is that a tiny, breathing, tiny cow in a box? Why is it in a box? The girl looked horrified. "Oh, wrong box. It was supposed to have a note in it saying your boyfriend is breaking up with you. I see this all the time. I messed up the boxes. Never mind what you see in here." "Wait, what do you mean my boyfriend is breaking up with me?" Luni said, not giving the box back. The woman shook her head and zeroed out the cash register. She checked that the citation notice was still firmly placed on the glass doors. "It is always why these types of things happen," the woman finally said. "He's married, or he has somebody else in mind. He lured you here before ghosting you, giving you a nice vacation while you deal with reality." "Kevin would never do that to me," Luni said. "Oh, his name is Kevin," she laughed. "Okay, go ahead. Tell me how Kevin would never do such a thing. Go ahead." "Actually, I don't want to. What's wrong with Kevin?" Luni said, leaning back on the stool, making a wee noise, slumping her shoulders. "'Cause every Kevin is a Kevin. Duh. If you don't believe me, give me his number." What would she want with Kevin's number? Luni wondered. She decided to find out. She entered Kevin's number in the woman's phone. "Are you at least gonna let the cow out of the box?" Luni said. "The cow is not important." The woman put the call on speaker. "Hello," Kevin answered casually. "This must be the escort I hired. You're late. Is this like a pizza delivered? Do I get you for free?" "Oh, hello, Kevin," the woman said. "Funny how you answer when I call, but not your fiancé. It's like you memorized the hotel's number so you wouldn't have to pick up her call." "Yes, my number is out of state." "No, I'm not your escort." "Wow, Kevin, no, I don't know you. You are just easy to predict. She's right here if you want to tell her yourself." Oh. The girl had been having fun with the whole situation, but her heart sank when she heard he did not want to speak to her. For the first time she looked at her, Luni knew. Her face scrunched, and her skin grew pale. "Okay, jerk," the girl said, ending the call. "I'm sorry, I see it a lot here for some reason. Usually the guy's name is Kevin. Sometimes Chris. Guys suck." Luni said not a word, but looked at the wooden floorboards of the strange tea shop. Colorful dust swirled with the ceiling fan above. She sat hard into her chair, which made a loud wee sound, and placed the box back on the counter, looking cold and lifeless. She stood and backed away towards the doors. "Where are you gonna go?" the girl asked. Luni took another look around. Something about her appearance seemed off, unnatural. "Who are you? What is this place?" Luni asked. I'm Braylon, she said. Knowing my name doesn't help you, though. I need you out of here. I'm late for an important meeting thing. At this, she placed the cow box inside a cabinet. After pressing a button on the register, something chimed and birds flew across the room, diving to collect trash and straightening out the room. Luni fell to her knees and covered her head, having watched the birds one too many times. When she realized she was not under attack, she turned to a shocked Braylon, unprepared to what to say next. Wow, I think we have a bird problem, Braylon answered, her lips twitching and her tongue smacking. That was unexpected, wasn't it? Luni narrowed her eyes. I knew it. There's no such thing as a tea shop. I mean, who are you even kidding? Cucumber sandwiches? That's not real. This is all fake. Kevin is not dumping me. That cow is fake. Braylon shook her head. No. Mr. Spottatini is real and super not chill. Her face changed to her sour one. No, I mean, it's an animatronic. There's a gas leak in here sometimes. That's why I got the fine. So it's a figment of your imagination. So, this is a magic tea shop? Luni demanded. Gas leak, very dangerous. Every second you stand there, a brain cell dies, Braylon remarked, motioning to the door before looking at the clock mounted above the exit. Did Kevin tell me? Braylon nodded matter-of-factly. Again, I don't have time for this. If you need some fresh air before you... Luni broke down in tears, sobbing deeply. Try as she may, she could not force herself to walk out the door. Instead, she stood, crying. Awkwardly, Braylon leaned over for a pat. There, she said stiffly. Oh, okay, I get it. Your entire world has been destroyed. Luni cried harder at this. For the final time, Braylon's eyes turned to the clock striking 11 o'clock. She knew it would take some time to get to her meeting. There would be no moments to spare. New plan, she said to Luni. You are going to hang out here, upstairs in the spare apartment until I get back, okay? Don't touch anything and don't tell anyone you were here. There's food, but don't touch the Chinese food from a month ago. And don't bother the cow, okay? Upstairs you go, come on. She led her upstairs, up to the spare room, and ran as fast as she could down the rainy street. Luni watched her wander into the forest from the window above the shop. Braylon went alone, carrying a stick and what looked like a carriage strapped to her waist. Although she could not be positive of the silliness, all she knew was life was not how she knew it, and there would be no going back to how things were before. After bawling her eyes out on the phone to her friend Celeste, she found herself feeling drained and purposeless. All her friend said was, "I told you so." Which might seem blunt, but that's just how she is. Perhaps things were too perfect, she thought, looking back at everything. All the random meetups in different coffee shops, never in the same place, now seemed odd. Though it's an obvious red flag to everyone else in the universe. How he used to leave the room to answer his phone, lowering his voice so she couldn't hear. The evidence of his being a bad idea had been in front of her, but she had not known what a warning sign looked like. Slowly, she accepted her new reality, and she found herself wishing that she could have acted better or maybe tried harder to please him. She went exploring the apartment. The 2 bedrooms were tiny, and the kitchen and living room weren't much bigger, but enough for a person to stand at the stove and crack an egg. Luni had seen some apartments in New York City where this would have been an impossibility. Cute little figures and displays were littered throughout the dish cabinets and granite countertops. They looked like little charms made from different flowers and sticks made to resemble people. It looked cute enough not to be creepy, and it looked like it took much skill to craft, although the glass figures still sitting on the window seemed like whatever creatures they were supposed to resemble were screaming and glowing an odd color. Maybe there is a gas leak, she thought. Maybe that's why this is all so surreal. Everything in this tea shop seems so mystical. Just like Taylor. When she had been looking at one of the figures, noticing sprouting leaves growing on them that seemed to be waving at her, she heard a loud move from the shop below. She rushed to the voice coming from inside the cabinet. "They aren't your things. You should leave them alone," she thought. But yet, it is a cow. Trapped in a box. I'd be ticked if I were trapped in a box all day. No one wants to be crammed in a tiny space. So she opened the cabinet, knowing what Braylon had said, and lifted the lid of the box. The white cow looked up, almost looking to smile. It kicked with its hooves and pranced about. Poor guy wants out. Braylon called him Mr. Spotted Teeny, Luni thought. She reached out and petted the soft fur of the creature. The instant she cupped her hands to lift the cow out of the box, it leapt, making a happy mooing sound, dancing in a circle, and headed to the double doors. It pawed at the glass, motioning with its head towards the outside world. Its tail wagged. "I can't let you out, cow," Luni said, kneeling behind it. "As much as I want to let you out, you're gonna hang out with me and help me get over this awful feeling I'm having about Kevin." The cow dashed at the door with a gallop. It slammed its body against the glass, sending shards scattering everywhere. The rain blew in from outside, and the cow leapt over the sharp pieces and crossed the road. Luni ran out, missing an oncoming car by inches. She yelled to the driver her apologies as she finished crossing the street. She entered the bar, for real this time. The clattering of hooves echoed in the wooden building as she walked across the repurposed flooring. Luni could hear, but could not see the cow. A confused tall bartender looked to the woman who had walked in, who had stared hard at the ground in panic. "Did you see the cow that walked in here?" Luni asked. The bartender acted like you would expect. She placed her hands on her hips for a moment, trying to gauge that the woman was serious. A man hunched over at the bar turned. His eyes and face appeared tired, aged with sadness. The typical bar person one often sees. The bartender gave a quick, concerned glance, seeing his fourth cup of Jack and Coke of the night had been drained. "We all know she's not crazy," the man said, feeling the condensation on the outside of the empty glass. "We know weird things are coming out of the tea shop next door. I'll take another drink." "Not now, Mr. Whitaker," the woman spoke, looking at the known troublemaker. "No!" He stood and faced Luni, stumbling towards her. "It's about time one of us finally says something about what's going on next door." She spotted the cow in the back behind the counter, in the kitchen where a small oil fryer bubbled. It looked with curiosity at the burning hot liquid. Instead, she tried to focus on the emotional man's, whose words were spat out in anger. "It's magic, and you're a part of it," he said. "Magic isn't real. It's just a gimmick," the bartender said in the soothing voice. Luni backed a step towards the door. The cow turned to her, then looked back to the oil. "There's a gas leak," Luni said. "I don't think there's anything." "Gas leak!" The man spat before he reached for his glass and sucked on the remaining ice cubes. "There hasn't been gas in that building since the fire in '87. I'm tired of pretending everyone doesn't know. I'm going to do something about it." The others in the room talked louder and turned away, trying to act normal. A man put some coins into a video poker machine on the far end of the bar and pressed the deal button again to get 2 kings and 3 twos, avoiding the conversation. "Next round is on the house, Mr. Whitaker," the bartender said. "If you'll let it be the last of the night, and if you'll give me your keys and let Barb take you home." The man sat, still looking at the woman. "I won't turn down a free drink. I'm serious. I'm gonna prove it someday." He handed over his keys. After pouring his final drink and placing his keys under a stack of glasses, the bartender motioned Luni to the back where the cow still stared at the hot oil. As she walked behind the counter, meeting the eyes of the man for a moment as she passed, she noticed the cow slipping out at the back as the cook left to take a smoke break. The woman waved her on. "Don't mind him," she said to Luni, while taking a moment to start the industrial-sized dishwasher and to pull some fries out of oil. "He lost his kid to a long illness a while back. Always comes in cursing about the tea shop next door. He thinks he could have done something to help his kid." Someone leaned over the counter and yelled to the back, "Hey, Callie, can I get a burger and another beer? Grilled onions? In the burger, I don't want grilled onions in my beer." "I can't, I have a thing I have to get to," she said, cursing at the late hour. "My point is, you shouldn't be talking about those things. Weird things, cow things. Don't draw attention to it." Luni didn't understand. "I'm not supposed to draw attention to a tiny cow running around?" "If it came from that shop, then no," she said. "In fact, I would never speak of it again if I were you. The people who run the town don't like it when word gets around about it. Funny talk." "But," Luni said, "someone is going to get upset that their tiny cow is on the loose." The oil flames burst and reached high towards the ceiling. The cook had returned for her lighter, and the cow had peeked its head slightly inside the door, staring at the flames with a devilish smile. The embers reflected in its eyes. It smiled while making a grunting sound which made the flames raise higher. "Quick!" Callie yelled. "What a towel!" He ran for the fire extinguisher, but Luni had already run out at the door after the cow into the street. After running into the rain, she gave up. Tired and confused, she felt overall not great about the general state of her life. When the rising smoke cleared from the air, she breathed a deep sigh of relief before running on to keep searching for Mr. Spotatini. A nearby car exploded. Metal flew. She rolled behind another vehicle before realizing how horrible of an idea that was, with the fire-happy cow running around. She looked for a non-explodable cover, and soon she spotted the cow in the street near a drain of rushing water. For a moment, it wagged its tail before bolting. Luni placed a hand over her mouth and shook from the cold. "I should have left the cow in the box." She charged at the creature, who scampered off into the open building. Luni rushed and placed her full weight on the door to trap the cow inside. She found a scrap piece of wood nearby and jammed it between the door handles. The door jam would have to do until she could return with the creature's owner. A large sign hung over the complex. She read it. "Whispers Bay Mining and Dynamite Museum." A painting of a man with a tin hat giving a thumbs up on the side of the building stared at her seemingly. "That's why I don't do anything. Because I can't do anything right," Luni thought.